Got something a little different on Randy's House of Broken Gibson Guitars. I got this Engelhardt C1 bass off of Facebook Marketplace, but I didn't receive it like this. I received it in 10 different pieces. And so in this video, I'm going to show how I went through, reattach the neck to the body, glue the fingerboard back on, string it up, and everything else. And so if you want to hear how it sounds, I'll put a timestamp where you can jump to the end. But I hope you enjoy this. This was a ton of fun. It's my first upright bass that I've ever worked on, and it was a successful project. So here's how it went.
To start this project off, the first thing that I did was to survey the damage. When I purchased this bass, I got it in pieces, and it really wasn't clear how the neck had come off, um, what the circumstances were, if the neck was taken off intentionally, if it broke off. Regardless of what happened, I decided the first thing I was going to do was to try and glue the sides and the broken piece of the mortise back into place so that I could go ahead and see how the remaining neck pieces actually fit together. You can see in the joint that all sorts of different types of glue had been used in the past, but I decided to go with regular Type Bond here, and I used a considerable amount to ensure that any gaps were going to get filled in. Additionally, I also used super glue. What this does is help in the very beginning keep the piece in place while the actual wood glue sets. The super glue itself doesn't have a ton of strength, but the combination of them together will keep the piece in place so that the real wood glue can do its thing. With the mortise put back together, I moved on to sanding the area between the mortise and the sides that were coming off. And here I just fold a piece of sandpaper in half and kind of do the same flossing technique that you see when you're fitting the neck to a body. Really just, to save time, kind of go back and forth. And my whole point here is just to rough up the surface to give the wood glue something to hold on to. After sanding, I use a chisel to try and pry open, some of the body cracks that exist so that I can jam glue in as many places as possible. What I'm trying to do here is get all of the pieces together with one glue so that all of the sides and the front and back are lined up appropriately with the mortise, so I only have to clamp one time. After a couple of hours of dry time, I took the clamps off and then cleaned up any squeeze outs that I created. Obviously, there's a lot of dried glue and other mess in there that I'll clean up later, but I wanted to at least get the glue that was still soft that I just introduced to the joint. Next, I could move on to cleaning up the neck tenon. Obviously, there was some dried glue on the edges. When the neck broke away from the mortise, it took a chunk of the mortise off, and so you can kind of see that towards the bottom. And then there's this massive chunk of glue right here that I end up needing to use a mallet to break off. And here's the rest of cleaning up the cheeks of the tenon, carving off the piece that broke off the mortise. And even though my chisel looks pretty dirty there, it is razor sharp, which you need to do work of this kind. And finally, the last step before I can see how the neck fits into the mortise is just to clean up all of this glue and other mess that's in the joint. There was slivers of wood that were glued down. There was this big chunk of yellow glue. And getting all that stuff out of the way will then let me see how loose or how well the neck actually fits to the body. Now I can make the first attempt to fit the neck to the body. And one of the things that really surprised me was how tight the joint was. I obviously went through in the previous steps and cleaned out the glue, cleaned off some of the broken wood, and yet the dovetail doesn't fit together very well. Obviously, this is the optimal scenario. If it's too big, you can always make the dovetail smaller. But nevertheless, for a base that's decades old, I was surprised to see that it didn't fit together very well. Another strange thing about this neck is that seemingly wood filler was used to fill in the entire corner of where the fingerboard would actually interact with the neck. And so I decided that I was going to cut that piece out and laminate in a solid piece of maple so that everything was as solid as it could be. With the neck shored up, I could begin the process of fitting the dovetail. Here I'm using a 3D printed sanding stick to lightly sand the mortise so that it's just slightly bigger than it was. And this was, a process that took many, many iterations to go through and, sand everything off, fit the neck, see how far it went in, and then do that over and over until got a fit that seemed reasonable. It's a bit out of frame here, but I put glue on the cheeks of the tenon and not on the top face of the joint. I just want glue on the inside. I don't want glue to be squeezing out of the neck. And so, you know, put plenty of glue in and then start pushing the neck into place. When you think of fine instrument making, you don't often think of hitting something with a hammer, but in this case, using this rubber mallet to really force the neck into place, helping the neck joint go in the last couple of millimeters that it needed. Even though the neck went all the way into the dovetail joint, there was still about a millimeter, 2 millimeter gap where the back plate and the neck used to go together. And originally I tried to use a clamp to force them together, but I felt like that was not going to be a viable solution in the long term, that, it would just put stress on the back and then maybe crack off the back tab. And so what I decided to do, was put a maple shim in between the neck and the back plate, and then that way it both gave some more reinforcement with the extra glue seam, as well as not putting tension on the back tab. With the neck glued to the body, I could now turn my attention to prepping the neck so that the fingerboard can be re-glued. And here I just put a little bit of pencil to make sure that when I sand, I don't miss any areas, and to identify any low spots that might be present. clamping the fingerboard to the neck would end up being challenging. When I do this for guitars, I have various clamping calls for the radius of the fretboard, but I've never worked on an upright bass before, and frankly, I don't even know what the curve of the fingerboard is. And so the way I decided to solve this problem was to use latex tubing that I got from the home improvement store. And the idea here is that you just pull it really tight and it stretches, and essentially you get a spiral clamp that keeps everything in place. After the glue had enough time to set, I removed the clamps, removed the latex tubing, and cleaned off any of the glue squeeze out that was left. And at this point, it's starting to look like a viable instrument. Of all the parts that did come with the base, one piece that was conspicuously missing was the nut. Luckily, I had some ebony acoustic guitar bridge blanks that I could use to cut out a nut blank. And because ebony is such a dense wood, I wanted to make sure that I roughed it out as much as possible with my bandsaw. And so here I'm just drawing some approximate lines where I think the nut might be too thick still. A small bit of CA glue will keep the nut firmly in place while I cut out the nut slots. And with the nut in place, the last piece I need to install is the end pin, which also has the connection to hold the bridge in place. And so once I have that all set up, I can string the bass, see where the strings line up, and then start to cut the nut slots. And here we are again with the persuasion hammer, just tapping it in. Luckily, it fit, very, very well without needing to buy an expensive end pin reamer. And then one of the weird things that came along with this end pin was there was duct tape wrapped around the end. The thing is that the pointed end is the part that's supposed to be coming out of the end pin, and so essentially they were using the end pin backwards. And so by taking off this duct tape, I can put it in correctly into the end pin slot and have a functioning end pin. And now my favorite part of any project is to string it up and see what we've got. Obviously, with no nut slots in place, the instrument isn't going to play very well. But what this will allow me to do is see where the strings want to lay down on the nut, and then I can go back and refine the string spacing so that I can start cutting the nut. Now, because a process like this is very iterative, I'm actually going to stop the video before I actually optimize the settings. That will probably be another video. But for right now, again, I can go back, mark the slots, start cutting them in, and getting the nut, say 80% of where it needs to be. And with that in place, I will be able to tune the strings up to tension, make sure the neck is stable with all the other parts, and start to get the first sounds out of it.
So here we are, the first sounds coming out of the bass. I've had this tuned to pitch for a few days. The glue's had, a week or so to set, and so that's at full strength. And I don't know how to play the upright bass yet, so I'll just kind of hack around for a second, but here's what it sounds like. Well, thanks for watching, and as I said, I will probably do another video to actually optimize the setup, and maybe by then I will have taken some lessons as well. Thanks for watching.